Hey everyone, Two Brain Cell here, and I'm back with another video on TFT fundamentals. Today's video is going to be a continuation of last time's video, which was transitioning at level 7. So today we're going to be talking about transitioning at level 8. So if you do have the ability to do this, congratulations, you played your early game well, and you should be greater than 80 HP after Wolves, so something around that. You should probably commit to sacrificing 3 rounds so that you can get to level 8 by 4-5. And obviously, it's not necessarily going to be, you're not necessarily going to lose all those rounds, but you need to keep in mind that you probably will lose those rounds because a lot of people will be rolling their gold at level 7, stage 4-1. You want to be able to retain flexibility because even if you are ahead in the lobby, the people who are rolling down at level 7 sometimes get very lucky, and they hit on the carry that you have been planning to go for, like an Olaf or a Kale 2 on level 7. And if you get too frustrated by that and you're too tunneled on running that comp, then it might be difficult for you to make the transition if all the units are already out of the pool. You should try to scout as much as you can to see which comps are most available. So because you have the luxury of not having to roll your gold at 4-1, you can actually see what other people are quote unquote forced to commit to on level 7 and plan your level 8 accordingly. So on 4-1, on 4-2, you should just scout the lobby, see what carries people have picked up, and then try to commit to something that is less contested. You want to know the variations of your composition. So this is a really big thing I see with players who are kind of just starting out and basing their endgame compositions on guides. So they have a specific 8-unit composition in mind, and so they want to work around a specific chosen, a specific set of units, and it makes their end composition very inflexible. And sometimes you will see people running a bunch of 1-star units when they had the opportunity to 2-star, maybe somewhat suboptimal units, but units that have a lot more impact because they are 2-star. And then finally, one opinion that I personally have, which may or may not be necessarily correct, is that I will not take a frontline chosen unless I already have a 2-star version or at least a pair of the carry that I'm trying to run. So if I'm trying to run Olaf, for example, and I haven't hit, for example, if I'm rolling down and I haven't hit on any Olafs and I see a Sejuani chosen, conventional wisdom says that taking the Sejuani chosen is good because it's such a super strong front line, and you're able to, you should be able to get an Olaf 2 with the rest of your gold. But I like the security in having the gold 2 and having the chosen slot open so that I can roll for maybe a chosen Olaf or at least a 2-star version of my carry before committing to something like a tank chosen. So in this video, I'm going to go over certain 4-cost carry compositions and their variations. One note is that I won't really be going over too many Mage Aurelion Soul comps. Personally, I'm not very good at playing Aurelion Soul comps, at least the Elderwood Mage variation, and so I feel like it would be nearly pretty much spreading misinformation if I was to try to talk about that at any level. But yeah, let's get right into it. Let's first look at some boards that run Olaf as the main carry. Olaf carry boards are generally centered around the Slayer trait, Dragon Souls, and Vanguards. And as you can see from this board, the build actually doesn't require any particular chosen in its baseline iteration, right? And without a chosen, you can still hit on all 3 of those impact traits. The problem with this board sometimes is that the extra tankiness or the extra frontline units really don't make that big of a difference in terms of the utility that it provides, and it's not really tanking for anything because Olaf is also a frontline unit. And so in this sort of situation, you can definitely replace a lot of, or add a lot of utility to your board if you hit on particular chosens. So let's first look at a variation where you hit on a Dragon Soul chosen. So if you hit on a Dragon Soul chosen, you can drop Ornn, and you can drop Braum, and you can add in a utility like Mystics. So Mystics adds to the inherent tankiness of Olaf as a unit, while not really sacrificing too much frontline because those two vanguards, aren't going to be tanking or aren't going to increase the tankiness of your team by significantly more compared to just having the Aatrox and the Sejuani. So in this sort of situation, you add Mystics, which contributes to the tankiness of Olaf as a unit, as well as you slot in Cultists, which is a lot of utility with both the knockup as well as having just another unit to soak up damage. Another variation of the Dragon Soul chosen is to just fully leverage into 6 Dragon Soul. So if you want to run something like 6 Dragon Soul, you can actually frontline Azir provided that you have another GA, and you can run something like the Shyvana, the Brand, and maybe the Braum for either Sejuani or Aatrox. So depending on which one is 2-star, what the enemy carries have, and whether you need the utility of Aatrox or Sejuani more, you can make that sort of decision. Let's just say for now that you're replacing the Sej, right? And in this sort of board, you actually get a lot of value out of frontline the Aurelion Soul provided you have the GA. And what will be even better is if you can somehow manage to get a mage cap onto the Shyvana, right? This would hit 6 D Soul, 3 mages, as well as the 3 Slayer buff. And it's a very strong variation of an Olaf carry board that you can look at. An alternative board that you can look at again is if you get something like a Vanguard chosen. So if you get a Vanguard chosen, for example, let's bring the Sejuani back, and you get a Sejuani chosen, right? This is again a very strong board, right? And if you get the Vanguard chosen, you are able to leverage really far into you're able to leverage really far into tankiness with only 3 units, right? And you still have an open unit slot given this current board setup to slot in something that provides Cultists. So in a lot of cases, you can just put in a Zillion without getting the Mystic trait, or you can put in something like a Callista, right, which gives you Duelists and buffs up the Tryndamere a little bit more if your Tryndamere is currently acting as your secondary carry. Finally, there's another board that you can look at with the Olaf variation that revolves around if you get Samira. So getting Samira allows you to put in Sivir to get a Sharpshooter trait, and again, putting in Sivir over here gives you the opportunity of getting Cultists into your team, which again is a lot of utility and just a lot more inherent tankiness in your team. The next set of boards we're going to be talking about revolve around Tryndamere as the main carry. Tryndamere is in a very interesting spot right now because he kind of acts as a bridge composition between Olaf carry boards and Talon carry boards, and he utilizes items for both of those units really well. With Tryndamere carry setups, you still want to maintain the Slayers, and you at least want the two duelist synergy while rounding out your composition with Vanguard and Mystics. So as you can see from the board here, similar to Olaf, this board doesn't require or isn't chosen reliant at all, and so you're still able to hit on all of your impact synergies without a chosen. Now, obviously, I wouldn't actively choose Tryndamere over Olaf as the main carry because I think Tryndamere has his issues with being susceptible to CC and not maximizing his damage output, but he is quite strong as a carry, and there are definitely a lot of high elo players who are utilizing Tryndamere when they can't hit on Olaf for their Slayer's comp. Obviously, depending on which chosen trait you get, there are a lot of variations to this board. So let's first look at a variation with Duelist chosen. So with Duelist chosen Tryndamere, you kind of have 2 options. Either you can leverage 4 Duelists as a trait, which is pretty strong and allows you to put in something like a Lee Sin. So with Lee Sin in, you have the 4 Duelists with the Callista, and then now that you've dropped the Shen, you probably want to replace Yuumi with another unit, which I usually like to do with an impact 5 cost like Yone. So Yone is extremely strong just as a solo unit because of the inherent armor and MR strat that he provides, and really slots in well to any composition. Alternatively, you could drop 4 Duelists by dropping Callista and Lee Sin, and then you can put the Mystics back in, and this time keep Yone in while also maintaining the original Mystic trait, and now adding Adept into your board. So this is also an extremely strong board. Now, if you do get something like a Slayer chosen, for example, that means you're able to drop something like Olaf. So the reason why I choose to drop Olaf over Pike is because, first of all, Pike contributes a little bit to. Sorry, let me put Callista back in because you do want to maintain duelists in this scenario. The reason why I drop Olaf over Pike is because not only does Pike provide the cultist trait, which, as I've said before, is really high utility. Pike is also, or Olaf as a unit is really not that effective when it's not itemized with Hurricane and GA, and when it doesn't really have Dragon Soul to add on to its damage. And so the utility that Pike provides with its stun and its CC and everything is, in my opinion, generally a little bit more valuable. So this is an example board that you can run with the Slayer chosen trait for Tryndamere, and it's also extremely strong. Finally, one final board that you could run is, if you like with the Olaf board, get something like a Sejuani chosen, a Vanguard chosen in this scenario, and similarly, you can easily slot in 4 Vanguards and keep the sorry, I shouldn't have gotten rid of the Callista, and keep the Duelists in so that you have a really strong front line with a lot of utility in Sejuani Aatrox, while still being able to maintain the Mystic synergy. So this board is maybe the lowest damage out of the ones that we've seen, but it does have extremely high tankiness and a lot of utility to allow Tryndamere time to do his damage. Finally, let's look at some boards that revolve around Kayle as the main carry. Kayle compositions right now are probably the most flexible in the game, mainly because with Kayle compositions there's a clear separation between frontline and backline, which allows you to be very flexible and interchange a lot of frontline units in order to get different variations of the comp depending on what you hit. In addition, as a general rule, when you're running Executioners, you should try to run either 4 Executioners or 2 Executioners, never 3. So the board that I have set up over here is the 4 Executioner version of the board with a chosen Executioner Kayle in an ideal world. And this is a very standard version of the comp. You run 4 Executioner with 4 Divine, with Mystics and Adept from Shen and Aurelia, and this is the ideal version that most people generally go for as a baseline, and it's what you'll see in guides oftentimes. However, if you don't hit an Executioner chosen, the right move is generally to just drop the Xayah. And for example, if you don't have a chosen at all, but you hit all of these units, a good unit that you can just slot in is a Yone. Right? And so even chosenless, this board gives you 2 Executioners, 4 Divine, and now it has the 3 Adept synergy, which is very strong in and of itself, as well as the utility that Yone provides with his armor and MR reduction. However, there are obviously a lot of iterations of this board if you do hit on certain chosens. So let's first take a look at if you hit on a Divine chosen. So with a Divine chosen, the easiest thing to do is probably to just slot in 6 Divine by putting in a Lee Sin for this Yone right here. So with Lee Sin in, you get 6 Divine, as well as the added benefit of a Duelist synergy. And of course, Lee Sin is one of the most annoying units in the game for his ability to just kick enemy units off the board. And so this is also an extremely strong version of this composition. One big variation to this composition that you can go for is if you hit something like a Morgana chosen. So in this example, if you hit on a Morgana chosen and you, for example, it's a Siphoner chosen, you can actually run this version of this board. And it allows you to drop Jax in favor of something like Vladimir, as well as putting the Nasus back in. Right, and so even though you have a slight inefficiency when it comes to running 3 Divine, in actuality, 2 Divine versus 4 Divine is not really impactful enough for you to be too worried about this inefficiency. In addition, you're able to run something like 4 Siphoners, which is really, really strong, especially if you have a well-itemized Morgana with Morello, right? And so this is really interesting variation of the board that I would say a lot of people don't see when they're tunneling on playing Kayle comps, and it's extremely strong because you have the inherent enlightened synergy with Irelia. Finally, as with most compositions in the current meta, you can always put in something like Sejuani and Aatrox into your composition just because of how strong they are and how much utility they provide as a unit duo, right? And so getting this type of composition is never bad, right? Even without any particular chosen, this level of composition will always do well, provided that you have 2-star versions of your carries and a well itemized kill. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I hope to come out with more educational content soon.